So you're starting a thesis, and it probably feels like you're standing at the base of this huge, intimidating mountain with no clue how to even start climbing. But what if we reframed that? What if it wasn't a mountain, but a journey? A journey with clear, manageable stops along the way. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in this explainer. And if you're nodding along right now, hey, you're not alone. That feeling of being totally overwhelmed is practically a rite of passage for every grad student. But don't you worry. We're going to break this whole thing down into a clear step-by-step path. So let's take that first step together.
Okay, here's our roadmap. Think of it as 4 stations on our thesis journey. First up, finding your direction. Second, we're mastering the literature. Third, we'll turn all those notes into an actual draft. And our final stop, the final submission. Simple as that. Let's get started.
All right, first stop on our journey, finding your direction. You know, this is arguably the most critical part of the whole process. It's about getting out of that fog of a million different possibilities and landing on one single, sharp research question that you actually care about answering. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? A thesis is a total marathon, not a sprint. And if you just pick a topic to check a box, you're going to run out of steam fast. So how in the world do you find a subject that's actually going to keep you going through all those long months of work?
Well, the secret is to find that sweet spot, that perfect intersection of 3 key parts of your life. Our source material points to your profession, or 专业, your personal interests, 兴趣, and your core life values, your 人生价值观. So think about it. What skills matter for your career? What do you find yourself reading about just for fun? And finally, what big questions really, truly matter to you? Your best topic lives right there, where those 3 circles overlap. That's what'll keep you motivated.
Okay, you've got your topic. You've arrived at station 2. And then, bam, you're hit with this tidal wave of academic papers, articles, and books. It feels like you're drowning. The challenge here isn't to read everything. It's to learn how to swim through it all and actually find the good stuff. So let's talk about a critical shift in how you read. On one hand, you have passive reading. That's probably how we were all taught, right? Start at the first word, finish at the last. But for a literature review, that is so inefficient. You want to shift to active, strategic reading. The goal isn't just to finish the paper. It's to understand it and pull out its key ideas. So how do you do this? Here's a killer technique called scan reading. The idea is brilliant in its simplicity. You don't read every single word. You read the paper's skeleton. Start with the title and abstract. That gives you the big picture. Then jump to the introduction and the conclusion to see the main argument. Finally, you just skim the first and last sentence of every paragraph. It lets you follow the logic without getting totally bogged down in the details. So you've scanned all these papers. Now what do you do with the information? This brings us to a real game changer, the Zettelkasten method. It's German for card bucks, or as you see here, Kopienhebejifa. But listen, this is not just another note-taking app. It's a whole different philosophy. It's a system designed to help you think, to connect disparate ideas, and to turn your notes into a genuine thinking partner. And this quote right here, it gets straight to the heart of it. Your goal is not to build a digital filing cabinet of boring old notes. It's to capture your own ideas and then link them into what the source calls chains of ideas, or 想法的串联. This right here is the secret to generating original arguments for your thesis. So what's the real difference between a note, or a BG, and an idea, a 想法? Well, a note is passive. It just records something. For example, Socrates said we think in dialogue. Okay, fact recorded. But an idea is that information plus you. It's active. For instance, Socrates' idea of dialogue is useful. Maybe I can write my own notes as a Q&A with myself to think more deeply. See the shift? One is a record. The other is a springboard for your own thinking. Which brings us to station 3. You've been building this incredible web of connected ideas in your Zettelkasten. Now, let's see how you turn that beautiful, structured chaos into a coherent, well-argued draft. This is where the magic really starts to happen. The writing process suddenly becomes way less scary and much more systematic.
You've already done the hard work of capturing your atomic ideas on cards and linking them into those chains of ideas, the 想法的传列. The next step is to create what's called a map of content, or MOC. This is your outline, but instead of staring at a blank page, you're just arranging the idea chains you've already built. Then, writing the actual draft is just a matter of fleshing out this super detailed blueprint.
I absolutely love this metaphor from the guide. Your map of content isn't some flimsy outline. It's what the source calls a semi-finished product, a bunchen-pin. Think about that. By the time you've arranged your ideas, a massive chunk of the heavy intellectual lifting is already done. You're not starting from zero. You're assembling something that's already halfway built.
And just like that, we're pulling into the final station of our journey, the final submission. You've done the big intellectual work. Now it's time to zoom in on the technical stuff, the formatting, the binding, the paperwork, all the little details that get you across that finish line to graduation.
Okay, time to get super practical, because you can't trip at the finish line. Every university has its own quirks. Using National Chengxi University as our example, you can see specific rules like 12-point Times New Roman for English and the Biaokai or Biaokai T font for Chinese with 1.5 line spacing. These details matter so much. The number one rule is to find your own university's guide and follow it to the letter.
And it's not just the fonts. The order of the pages in your final bound copy is just as important. Again, using the NCCU guide, there's a super precise order for everything, from the cover page all the way back to the references. Seriously, think of this as your final checklist before you hit print.
Let's just take a second to picture that final product. Your cover page. It's the very first thing anyone will see, and it needs to be perfect. The guides are always very specific. Your department, your degree, the title, your advisor, your name, the date. Everything perfectly centered. Getting these little things right shows your professionalism and respect for all the work you've poured into this.
So when you step back and look at this whole journey, you realize something pretty important. Writing a thesis isn't just a final exam you have to pass. It's the act of building a personal system for yourself. A system for reading with purpose, for developing real ideas, and for structuring complex arguments. It's a powerful method for turning chaos into clarity, and that is a skill you will use for the rest of your life.
You've basically completed the journey and built yourself this incredible intellectual engine. You've learned how to learn, how to think, and how to create in a systematic way. So really, the only question left is, where are you going to drive it next?